Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome you in this Outstanding Mobility Action webinar. We are going to wait another 1-2 minutes just to give the others a chance to join because we just launched the webinar. And then I'm going to start with my presentation and introducing you the 5 presenters of today. Okay, I'm going to start. So welcome everyone. If you joined in the last seconds, welcome everyone in this Outstanding Mobility Actions webinar and how to draft a good mobility action. Our program for today, I'm Balázs Németh. I'm a project officer and police, and I'm going to be the moderator of today's webinar. I'm going to just welcome you, which I already did. This is our first point in the program. Then after that, I'm going to make an introduction to the mobility actions. What is a mobility action and how can you submit one? And I'm also going to give you top tips to draft a good mobility action and having a higher chance that you are awarded for your mobility actions throughout the European Mobility Week campaign. After this information, I'm going to open the floor for our this year top mobility action presentations. Actually, now we are going to have a bonus presentations above the 5 presentation. So we are going to listen to 6 mobility actions today. After the 6 presentations, you are going to have the chance to ask questions either from me or from all the 6 mobility action organizers. After we finish with the presentations, I'm going to introduce you shortly the social media competition, which is going to follow the webinar of today. And that's our webinar for today. What is a mobility action? A mobility action is an activity, an action to promote sustainable urban mobility. We are particularly looking at activities, actions, which promote a behavioral shift towards a more sustainable urban mobility culture. For example, walking, cycling, public transport, carpooling, etc. You are gonna have a chance throughout this 6 presentation to have an idea which diversity we are receiving mobility actions every year, which can enhance behavior shift in sustainable urban mobility in everyone's lives all across Europe. Mobility action is rather a promotional than a technical activity or actions. So we are not searching for very technical solutions, but rather a promotional action which is easy to disseminate, easy to get familiar with, easy to communicate to people and to other organizations that maybe they like the idea as well and they are gonna repeat and copy your idea in the other side of Europe. If you want to have more information about the mobility actions, you can also always visit mobilityweek.eu, and in the mobility action sections, you can find all the information you need. Who can submit a mobility action? All types of organizations can submit one mobility action throughout the Europe mobilityweek.eu website. It can be a community, a groups of people, NGOs, social partners, research and teaching institutions, local national authorities, public institutions, public-private companies, and even more. Everyone can submit a mobility action if they are meeting with our criteria, which I'm going to talk about a bit later. When can you submit a mobility action? Mobility action can be submitted throughout the entire year, but the mobility action should happen mainly through the week of the European Mobility Week, which is between the 16th and the 22nd of December. As I told you, it shouldn't happen during that week. Most of the actions we receive are happening in September, because of course everyone is organizing activities connected to the European Mobility Week campaign early autumn, connected to the special European Mobility Week. But you can submit your mobility action in any other moment during the year. It can be February or December. We are going to receive them, review them, and we are going to make it available on our webpage. It can be a punctual activity, actually limited to a specific day, for example, throughout the European Mobility Week. Or it can be an action which lasts for several weeks or months as a solution in your local atmosphere, which are engaging people to change their behaviors to a more sustainable mobility in their daily life. If you represent a local administration, local activities organized by the local authority should be registered under the European Mobility Week category, in the blue category. So those cities who are participating during the European Mobility Week campaign and submitting mobility actions, they should also register as a city as part of the European Mobility Week campaign. This year, almost 3,000 cities, 2,945 cities joined the European Mobility Week campaign, and we received more than 900 mobility actions throughout the year of 2020. How can you submit a mobility action? This is maybe the most interesting question. You can do it also by going to the mobilityweek.eu webpage, and you can submit an application form in English. And you can also submit it in local language, but please also make sure that the information you share on your local language, you also share it in English language. So you are welcome to share information with us in your mother language, but we also would like you to translate that to English, that it's easier for us to identify your mobility action and to understand. Here you can see questions about the platform, about the application form where you can submit a mobility action. You can register, and after logging into the platform, you are gonna get an application form where you can give a title to your mobility action. You can have you can write a short description, a longer description about your mobility action. Then you are going to locate your mobility action on a map. And last but not least, some social media information about your organization and the address and some basic information about your organization or institution or community, etc. Why should you submit a mobility action? Your mobility action is part of the biggest mobility campaign across Europe, the European Mobility Week. After you submit your mobility action, you have the chance to get visibility on our website and increase the visibility for your mobility action throughout EU mobility platforms. If you are chosen to be among the best mobility actions of the year, as you are part of this webinar now, we are going to give you the chance to present your mobility action, but also we throughout the year have actions in the spotlight connected to specific events which are happening in Europe. So even though your mobility action is not chosen to be part of the best mobility actions and for the webinar and the social media competition, you can still be promoted with your mobility action throughout our social media and on the webpage. And besides that, every year we issue a best practice guide in the framework of the European Mobility Week campaign that you can get creative ideas that which kind of mobility actions you can think in your local atmosphere to organize. We are sharing the best mobility actions of the year in this best practice guide, which is also available on the mobilityweek.eu under communication toolkits. How to draft a good mobility action? As I already said, it's really important in the application form that you name your mobility action, that it can be categorized the best way possible. If your mobility action wants to achieve that more people get on their bikes, then please mention that in the title. It's also nice if you mention the location of your mobility action in your title, because people who are searching for specific mobility action from a country, they can also identify your mobility actions. Also, please always give a short description of your mobility action, because that's the easiest way that we can identify it and disseminate it. That short description should be also in English, that we can also understand. The longer description is not necessary to fill, but I would encourage you to share as many information as you have from your mobility action in your local language and besides in English as well. It's also important to locate your mobility actions on the Google map, which is available in the application form perfectly, because we receive several mobility actions, which they put the mobility action in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And it's difficult to locate where the action actually happened. And it's difficult to connect them to a specific country, which is really important for us, for statistics, and for other people who wants to find mobility actions from the specific country as well. And now we reach the point when we are ready for the mobility action presentations. As you can see it on the map, we try to create diversity in the mobility actions in a geographical scope. So we have mobility actions from Central Europe, from Southern Europe, and from Western Europe as well. The first mobility action is optimized mobility at night, presented by Thibaut Lecuyer from Padà Mobility from Padova, Italy. Thibaut, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen. Thanks a lot for the introduction. And please tell me as soon as my screen is shared. Are we okay?
Yes. Perfect.
Thank you very much. So we're going to talk about dynamic demand responsive transport. If it's new to you, I'll dig into details about what it is, and especially about night mobility in Padova, Italy. So if you ever were a student wanting to go back home at night while public transit became really scarce, this looks like the kind of experience you would have liked to have. A comfortable bus with plenty of space that's just right here exactly when you need it. That's what you wanted. Your experience probably looked a bit more like this, walking in the rain alone because there's no more public transit. Or maybe if you have been waiting for an hour for one bus or one transport to come, your experience looked a bit more like this when you wanted to go home. The beautiful city of Padua in Italy, which is in the north of Italy, has been working with us to develop a night transportation service that is at the same time cheap, efficient, and with a great user experience for users. This is what it looks like. It's a minibus that you can book with an app, and that will grab you where you are, take you where you want to go, and with extremely well optimized itineraries with demand responsive transit. I will give you a short definition of what DRT is. DRT is short for demand responsive transit or transport. The objective of DRT is to streamline a part of mass transit system by matching service levels and demand a lot more closely. It is extremely efficient when the demand is scarce in low density areas or low density moments of the day. What is extremely interesting is that you can serve a lot of people with lower operating costs. It gives better access to transportation, and the environmental impact is a lot lower than a fixed bus line. The method is that you have a fleet of minibuses that you can hail by a mobile app or a website that you use in place of a fixed route. And the beauty of it is that the itineraries are calculated in real time with extremely powerful algorithms. In the case of Padua, Italy, the partnership model with Bus Italia Veneto, the operator, the city of Padua, and Padam Mobility, we are the software designers of this solution. And to open up a little bit, the demand responsive transit has many use cases. On the right-hand side, you can see off-peak hours, which is what we're talking about today, but it's also extremely efficient for paratransit, first and last mile, and every area around big cities, as I said, as soon as the demand is scarce. The way it works, you have algorithms that optimize the fleets and simple applications, one for the user, one for the driver, and one for the transport operator who can manage his services. Quickly, Padova has public transit that closes at 9 p.m., 210,000 inhabitants and 60,000 students. The number of students is obviously the reason why there was a real need for a night transportation service. We launched it in January 2019, and the results have been pretty amazing. We've had 37,000 rides since the launch of the service. It went up very quickly. In this type of service, what you're looking very closely at is the pooling rate. That means the number of rides that include more than one person. That's what makes the service environmentally and economically very efficient. And the pooling rate there is extremely high for a night service. Again, we're going to pick people up where they are and bring them where they want to go. And the service rating is one of the best we've had on all our services. We have between 30 and 40 services in Europe using this technology, and the one in Padua has one of the best service ratings. And I'm going to close this quick presentation with a quote from the mayor of the city, who, as I said, wants to focus on the university students and on the flexibility of the solution. The reason behind this flexibility is that the bus only move when there is demand. Let's say that without a fixed timetable, buses don't follow itineraries or schedules, they only follow the demand. And the quality of the service that exists because of this makes everyone, including elected officials, extremely satisfied. That's all for me. I've left my email address here in case you want to know more about it, know more again about all the other services we have done or are able to do. The night mobility is a very specific one, but I'll be happy to talk to you about every other system that can exist. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thibault.
And I'm going to leave the stage to you again.
Yes, please unshare your screen because then I'm not able to do. Yes. And then I'm gonna come back to my presentation. And our next presenter is gonna be the Critical Mass Köln, Kids on the Bike by Simone Kraus. So Simone, the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Simone Kraus. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm gonna share my screen.
Perfect.
Okay, yes, I'm one of the heads of Critical Mass Cologne. The Critical Mass is a worldwide movement which is committed to making cities more child and bicycle friendly. We have a vision. We want children to be able to move around our cities safely and independently, especially by bike. We want politicians and administrations to respect the needs and rights of children. So we tell them, make space, don't limit children, limit unsustainable traffic. The Critical Mass is mainly a demonstration. So kids, they can ride on the streets with their bike where you usually only find cars. So it's an exclusively an exclusive event. And Critical Mass Cologne was organized for the first time 2 years ago. There were some other cities in Germany which also had their own Critical Mass, for example, Berlin and Stuttgart. And we in Cologne, we thought, okay, Critical Mass wants to get the whole of Germany or even the whole of Europe on their bikes for safe and autonomous and anxiety-free mobility at any age, especially for our kids. So we thought, okay, we're gonna create a mobility action, a central Critical Mass, and we have a teaser for this. So this is our mobility action. We organized a huge Critical Mass all over Germany, as you can see on the map, and even in some other European countries on a central date, a weekend on the 19th, 20th September, in the middle of European Mobility Week, and exactly on Children's Day, International Children's Day. And we had more than 22,000 participants. This means children, teenagers, and their families on their street bikes, their cargo bikes, their racing bikes. Everything was possible. There were more than 100 cities participating and 110 demonstrations organized in Germany, Austria, Belgium, England, Norway, and Switzerland. The heart of the movement are more than 150 involved local decentralized organizations and all the people behind these organizations. Nationwide, we were supported by the German Bicycle Association, the ADFC, but also by Greenpeace Germany and some other big institutions. And the idea of this central mobility action was actually born in Cologne by us, the Critical Mass Cologne. The mobility action is also connected to some clear political demands. We want all children and teenagers, we think that all children and teenagers should be able to cycle safely and autonomously around the city. We want anxiety-free cycling for everyone. We want a safe network of bike paths for going to school, so bicycle paths which connect schools to each other. And we want a speed limit of 30 kilometers per hour in cities. We have planned follow-up campaigns for next year for spring and autumn. This depends on the development of the corona pandemic. And we want to invite you to be part of getting things moving. We want more cities from all over Europe to participate in our critical mass campaign. And for that, you can just contact us. And in Cologne, we have some more activities. For example, on the car-free day, we turned a whole neighborhood into a playing street with no cars, and we want to create school streets like you know it from Vienna or Paris in Cologne too. If you want to join, just contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Simona, for your interesting presentation. I would like to encourage the audience that you can ask your questions through the Q&A panel, which you can see under our webcam picture. So if you have any questions to one of the presenters or about one of the mobility actions or to me, just please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A section, and we will make sure to answer them after we finish with the presentations. And I would like to invite our next presenter to present the mobility action Free Your City from Réka Erdélyi, who is representing the city of Szeged in Hungary. Réka, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, you can also see me. Great.
Yes.
So I will share my screen. And start a presentation. So
yes,
if I'm right, everything, okay, looks good. So I'm going to talk about an action that was firstly put in place this summer. It is a mobility action targeted, and our target group is children, similarly to the previous action. Now, first of all, welcome all of you in Szeged. As you can see, we have a big river crossing our city, and the topic is the quay of the river that you can see on the right-hand picture. So this quay is a major north-south passageway in the city with heavy traffic during peak hours. But in the summer, as most of the city, this quay is also, the traffic also decreases in this quay as well. So at the municipality, we thought that this is a great opportunity for us to test how would the traffic in the city look like if we freed up this quay from motorized vehicles and gave it back to people, and for sustainable transport modes or for other activities. As you can see, the quay's location provides an excellent opportunity for this. And these are pictures from this year's activities. We did this only during weekends this summer, but you know, it is up to decision makers to think about the future, and maybe this will expand to more time, or you know, maybe even months in the summer. As you can see, these programs involved sporting events, cultural events, and also programs for children. And one of the specific actions that I'm going to talk about is a children's program. Why is it good to come up with actions whose target group is children? I participated, I think last week, in another webinar about behavior change, and one of the takeaways of that webinar was also that this is one of the low-hanging fruits when it comes to behavior change, and is making children your target group because they are highly susceptible to good practices, and with the right education, they can be a real source of change. Now, within our action, we created this big poster that you can see on this picture. This is a symbolic map of our city. And in the beginning, this map was full of cars. It was full of pollution and all and congestion. And when children came to this spot, their task was to color in those things that would help change this situation. And we also established these specific exchange rates, where if somebody colored in a trolley bus, for example, they could remove 5 cars and lessen the congestion this way. If somebody colored in a tree, then they could remove gray clouds of smog, for example. And we had great success with this campaign. And it was really amazing to see how children reacted to this and how happy they were when they saw that their actions and their choices actually matter. And this tool is very useful in the aspect of gratification, because as they did it, as they were active, as it was in their hands, they could actually see the city changing. We think that setting a good example for children will lead to a behavior change within or among adults, among their parents as well. And this is one action that we did this summer in order to trying to create this cultural shift towards sustainable mobility. And our other actions were supported by the Urban Innovative Actions, which is a fund by the European Commission, and this is all part of our endeavors to make our city more livable, and especially when it comes to transport. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rika, for your presentation. And I would like to invite our next presenter, who is Emma Schrader, representing Hive Mobility Innovation Center for Smart and Green Mobility. Emma, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Also, thanks to the other presenters for their presentation. It's very inspiring to see all these mobility actions and to hear these enthusiastic stories about it. So thanks for that. Hello, everyone. My name is Emma Schrader, and I'm a project assistant at an organization called Hive Mobility. We are located in the north of the Netherlands. And in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what we do and who we are. So Hive Mobility is the innovation center in the field of smart and green mobility in the Northern Netherlands. We are basically a collaborative network of several partners who work together in the community on smart and green mobility solutions. So here you see our main partners, at least our founding partners, our strategic partners. And I think to many of you who are not from the Netherlands, these logos and names don't really ring a bell. But these companies or these organizations are well established here, and they know a lot about stuff in the field of smart and green mobility. For example, you see the province of Groningen, where we're located, the municipality, universities, there's some public transport companies, companies that do things with hydrogen, etc., etc. So it's a vast majority of disciplines who jointly work together on smart and green mobility solutions. And we as Team Hive Mobility, we are connecting these partners, or not even these partners, but also other parties that are interested in a collaboration. And we try to boost initiatives and innovations in this field. And we strengthen the role of the Northern Netherlands as frontrunner in this field of smart and green mobility. So that's basically in short what we do. We work through 5 themes basically. That is smart city logistics, autonomous transport, that is on all modalities. So autonomous transport on the roads, but also on the water, on the rails, and in the air. Smart networks, sustainability of mobility and infrastructure, and open and connected networks, for example, hubs or other things that have to do with that. I can talk about this for a very long time, but because of the time, I will continue for now. But if you want to know more about what these themes entail exactly and which projects are being carried out, please check out our website. There's an English version, so all the content, can be read there. But I think it's for this audience, it's nicer to just see a few examples of which projects are being carried out in this collaborative network. Here you see 4 pictures, and on the first look, you probably think, what do these have in common? Yeah, they all have a vehicle in it. But it's quite special because all these 4 pictures have in common that it's all autonomous transport. So the first picture on the top left is an autonomous train. ATO stands for automatic train operations. So here in the region in the Northern Netherlands, there have been pilots carried out to test what it's like to have an autonomous train, what are the advantages. And the first test results are very positive about it, that it can be very efficient, for example. On the top right corner, for example, you see an autonomous shuttle. That was also a pilot that took patients from a hospital to the nearest bus station or the other way around. And there's no driver, so it's without an operator. Same goes for the picture on the bottom right. It's a car, a Renault Twizy. It's a car for 1 person. And it's also autonomous, so there's no driver inside. And there have been tests that it can drive up to 70 kilometers per hour and stop autonomously for a passing robot in this case. Of course, it wasn't tested with real people yet. And on the left bottom corner, you see an autonomous drone. That means that it's pre-programmed to go from A to B to a GPS location. And there's no pilot holding a remote control. It flies on its own. So these are just 4 examples of the many projects that are being carried out under our initiative High Mobility. And they all have in common that they're quite special. And the Northern Netherlands is really front runner in this area. And I have another picture with a few examples. The main theme in this slide is sustainability, which was also the main theme in the European Mobility Week this year. In the first picture on the top left corner, you see an electric cargo bike, which is an initiative in the city of Groningen, here in the north of the Netherlands, where businesses, entrepreneurs could use it for a certain period of time to transport goods and use it as an alternative to other vehicles that, for example, diesel vans or stuff. So electric cargo bike. On the right, you see an electric bus. And on the bottom left corner, a hydrogen bus. Hydrogen is also a very big theme here in the north of the Netherlands. And on the right bottom corner, a hydrogen train, which is also very unique. So there's a lot going on in the region, and as High Mobility, we try to connect all these initiatives and carry it out. So I can talk on for hours, but because of the time, please check out our website for more information, or if you have any questions or suggestions, contact us.
Thank you, Emma, for the interesting presentation. And I would like to invite Sasha Erlemans from Q-Park to present the Promote Park and Ride mobility action.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sasha Erlemans from Q-Park, and I will share my screen at the moment.
Perfect.
Okay, thanks for the confirmation. I work at Q-Park. Q-Park has participated in the European Mobility Week with an activity with which we would like to change people's behavior, allowing them to have a more informed choice how they would like to go to city centers and to move around. QPark is a company that provides parking facilities, very often in functional urban areas, and we really like to work with cities and with landlords to make sure cities are livable, but also accessible. There is some economic viability there going on, etc., etc. And we do have some expertise in the area. So with this regard, I would like to share how we worked on promoting the park and ride proposition from our perspective. Promoting the park and ride, we did as follows. We have a QPark car park in Antwerp Center, which is at Berchem Station. And this particular parking facility is very much used by office commuters. There's a lot of offices around it, which means the parking facility has a full capacity on weekdays, on work weekdays, Monday to Friday. But it is a much lower capacity on Saturday and Sunday. So what we've done is we incorporated a park and ride proposition on Saturday and Sunday, providing people with more than a 50% discount if they would park and then use public transport to go further into Antwerp as a city. This would mean that we believe it will have less cars in the city center. Less cars in general up till today still means less inner city emissions, but also it will be more accessible and livable to be in the center of a particular city when you nudge people to park and then take public transport to go further. We also know by research that it increases safety for pedestrians and cyclists because people who are looking for a place to park maneuver in a very, let's say, challenging way to other traffic users. So by using this proposition, we really think we have not only a more informed choice, but also a much more economical choice for people visiting Antwerp. So what are we talking about? What you see here is a map of Antwerp, more of a bigger, broader map, also showing the highways, so the really high traffic ways around Antwerp. And where we at is here. You see the red circle is where the Antwerp-Berchem station, the train station, is located. And as you can see, it's very, very close to all the highways. So it really touches immediately into the highway traffic, allowing people to park their car just mainly off the road immediately. It's a really new development of offices around it. That's why it has a high capacity or utilization rate on working days. But when you go on the weekend, people would actually like to go there, where you see the green circle. So people actually would like to go to the city center. They want to go shopping or leisure or maybe go to cultural events. So there is a perceived distance between parking your car at the highway exit and then going to the city center. Where would you like to be? So we thought, why not try to cooperate and combine the two? It is Antwerp-Berchem station, which means it's a train station, and there is a lot of public transport between the Antwerp-Berchem station and the real central station, the central station of Antwerp. Not only trains, but also trams and buses allow for people to have a very quick, very convenient way to go into the city center. Where would you like to be? And this is how we looked at the proposition. So what we have done is we look at QPark and we look at all kinds of different propositions. We've created a city overview of Antwerp, meaning that we provide people with choice. So an informed choice creates a better decision. And we, as you can see here, we create all kinds of deals, but also choices. So you can either choose very economically to park and ride at the exit, at the highway exit and take a park and ride proposition, or for a higher amount, you can actually park in the city center, but at least it provides people with a more choice platform and really creates deals. So with these kind of items, we try to nudge people's perspective and people's mobility into urban areas of cities. And when you provide deals and choices, this is the one we're talking about. It's a park and ride choice at QPark Berchem Station, which is normally, if you would park there on a Saturday or a Sunday, it would be 24 euros. And now we've offered this for 10 euros on a Saturday and a Sunday. It's very, very easily to book. It's very easy to make this choice. And it's extremely easy to go further into the city center with either a train or the tram or the bus. So it's an economic proposition, which also means you have no stress and you have no traffic jam, because you really, straight from the highways, you go to the Berchem station and you just let yourself be driven to the city center. There's a lot of roadworks in the urban area, of course, and pedestrians and cyclists. So it's much easier to go straight from the highway into Berchem station. No stress, no traffic jams. And also what we have is not just a better deal, an economical deal, a more livable deal, but it's also technologically much smarter. There is no parking ticket needed. There is no payment machine where you have to go to. And in this particular day and age, it's fully contactless. So you drive in and out based on number plate recognition. You've already paid for it. So you don't have to go to the payment machine, and you can immediately exit the car park as well. Which means with all these no stress, no traffic jam, no parking ticket, no parking machine, it means yes to more relaxed shopping or more relaxed leisure. And it means, yes, you have a little bit more money for gifts because you have made some good economical deal on parking. So when the question then also has arisen, is it any successful? Well, to be fair, we do all have to deal with the COVID-19 measures. And when people are not allowed to move or are requested to work from home, of course.
Sorry, Sasha, I have to stop you here because the 5 minutes is gone.
Okay, so thank you very much then. That was my presentation.
Thank you so much. And now I would like to invite our bonus presentation for today, who is Priya Ait from Lyon, presenting LICO, the Smart Mobility as a Service Toolbox.
Thank you so much for the introduction and for the opportunity as well. I'll go ahead and share the screen. Let me know if the screen is visible.
Yes.
Thank you. So yeah, before I begin, I would like to thank the organizers for this opportunity, and it's my pleasure to introduce LICO to the attendees and the panelists. So talking about congestion and pollution is a daily concern, and to address this, we are often encouraged to take public or the shared transportation. But this seems unimaginable with the existing gaps in the first and the last mile. Moreover, accessing all the modes of transportation on one single platform has been a challenge. Sorry. With the existing, with the presence of different mobility actors and high investment required in the R&D, the long and the expansive discussions with these stakeholders often make the development and deployment of mass platforms quite complex and time consuming. So we often see that the time required for these efforts are way too much, whereas the return on investment is much lesser. So to address these concerns, I present you LICO, a mobility tech company founded in 2018 by Laurent Bouzon and Adrien Hugo, who understood these challenges and with their expertise in the mobility industry, came up with a flexible mass API that not only integrates the services of the mobility operators onto one single platform, but also allows the city authorities to launch their own intermodal mass platform, not in a year or two, but just within few weeks. I would also want to go ahead and highlight upon the features of the mass platform, where we have the mobility marketplace, a smart algorithm that creates the intermodal trip planner, the payment integration of payment solution, and the data visualization platform. LICO's USP is its mobility store that typically establishes a link with the sales and the distribution platform or the system of different mobility operators, ensuring that the end users have an option to plan and pay for their respective travel through one single platform. Customer experience has been our prime focus, and that's where we believe in full integration with the services of the mobility service providers. We've also gone beyond to include the mobility services onto our platform and not just the transport operators. To that, having said that, we have today the EV charging operators, the parking operators, demand responsive transportation, and even the ferry operators onto our platform, with an intention that all the mobility needs of an individual can be taken care on one single platform. Now, understanding that the needs of the end user vary depending upon their habits and preferences, the smart algorithm allows the creation of intermodal journey, which is always a mix of public and private transportation options, so that the end users have enough options to choose from. The travel information tool goes beyond to include the additional features like sharing the timetable and the other transportation options around the end user or with the end user, so that they have their journeys are made flexible and they have different options. The payment module allows the integration of different payment options that suits the interest of the stakeholders. The data visualization tool allows a good understanding of the mobility pattern of the end user. Okay, so we believe in our technology, and so does the biggest name in the travel industry. Understanding that the mass platforms can be customized to offer a more personalized solution, our API is being integrated onto the flight entertainment system of Joon, which is a subsidiary of Air France. The intention was, the integration basically allows the in-flight passengers to book their ground transportation much before they land. I have another interesting use case to share where our API was also integrated onto SEAT, which is a Volkswagen Group company, with an intention to make a balanced use of the car. We've done an integration of public transport operator, micromobility, the parking operators, so that the end users have an option other than just using their own private cars for their travel. So I would like to end the pitch, and towards the end, I would want to emphasize that transportation is not just about technology, but more about collaboration, where all these stakeholders need to come together to solve a common problem that concerns us all, which is the environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much indeed for your presentation and highlighting the importance of collaboration. It's very important in the European Mobility Week campaign as well, that different stakeholders are collaborating to change people behaviors in a local context.
That's correct.
So I'm gonna just share my screen pretty fast. So this is the time for questions. So as I already told you in the chat panel, please ask your questions in the Q&A box, and we try to answer most of them. I have to say that we have around 10 minutes to answer for questions. So I'm just gonna open the Q&A panel to see the question. There is a question to me. If we are regional administration, could you repeat when do we have to present our mobility action? Thanks a lot. As I said during my presentation, as a regional administration, you are welcome to submit your mobility action during the entire year. There is no specific time slot when you can submit a mobility action. You are welcome to do so when you completed the mobility action and it's ready to be submitted on our platform. There is a question to Priya. How can I get more detailed presentation of LICO?
Sure, maybe I can drop my email address here and then we can connect over email. Thanks, Lisa. I'll just drop in a message.
Yes, indeed, we can connect you with Luca. I don't see more questions connected to the mobility actions at this point. Feel free to ask questions. Until there is no more questions, I would like to ask Padova with the night bus that did you introduce any safety measures that people who are traveling on public transport throughout the night feel safe to use the public transport?
Not specifically. It's a classic public transport. What we find is that the way people use this service makes it nicer. The user experience is good, so people tend to be nicer in it. The fact that when you book your trip, you give your first name, so the driver usually says hi with your first name. It's a generally nice way of traveling, so we didn't encounter any problem on that side.
That's good to hear, because I was expecting some safety problems, but if you have no problems, but of course you don't need to introduce measures against. I'm gonna check if more questions are arriving. Question for Köln. What kind of organization are you? Is it an NGO? How do you finance your work? Is by donation, public money, or etc.? Thanks.
Yes, you can say that we are an NGO. All the critical mass action is actually organized by volunteers, and yes, we get donations, and we have you have possibilities from the municipalities, also private donations, or we have these associations behind us on the nationwide level, but also on the local level. We are supported by the bicycle association, the ADFC Cologne, and also the nationwide one. So it's a mixture of financement, but on a very low level. So there's no huge budget behind us.
Thank you for your answer. I'm gonna check if I think there is another question. No, it's just saying thank you from David for your answer. Okay. If there is no more questions arriving at this point, then I'm gonna share my screen again. And I'm gonna talk a bit about our social media competition, which is gonna follow our webinar today. So mobility actions, which have been chosen to present during this webinar, the top 5 mobility actions, are gonna have a chance to take part on a social media competition throughout the European Mobility Week social media channels. We are gonna share pictures about the mobility actions, and people are gonna have the chance to get familiar with the mobility actions and further disseminate it. And the competition, the winner of the competition is gonna be decided by the amount of activity which the specific post is gonna create on the social media channel of the European Mobility Week. I would like to thank you for participating during our webinar today. Hopefully you received some very creative ideas for your future mobility actions, and you also got some information how to change the behavior in your local context in terms of mobility and transport. I hope we are gonna get in touch. I would encourage you to submit your mobility actions throughout 2021 as well. Stay in touch, and have a nice afternoon for everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.